Good morning, I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. In today's update, President Biden is set to speak today on the administration's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, as the CDC is expected to announce new guidelines for wearing masks outdoors. Some areas have already started to lift outdoor mask rules, as one study shows less than 10% of COVID infections occurred outside. But public health experts agree that masks indoors are still crucial. Meanwhile, India is in crisis as it breaks records for new COVID cases every day. The country reported more than 320,000 new cases and 2,700 more deaths in the last 24 hours alone. Despite being one of the world's top vaccine manufacturers, the vast majority of India's citizens are not vaccinated, and its manufacturers now face a shortage of the raw materials needed to produce vaccines. And President Biden has pledged to provide oxygen and other needed supplies to India. The U.S. also plans to share as many as 60 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine with India and other countries. And Apple's new iOS operating system will let users choose if they want their online activity tracked and sold to third-party apps. Experts say it may be a double-edged sword, placing the power in the customer's hands in terms of privacy, but it could also hurt Facebook and the small businesses that benefit from ads on its platforms. And the family of Andrew Brown Jr. is preparing to release new details of an independent autopsy report. The report comes after the family says they were shown only 20 seconds of police body cam footage from Brown's fatal police shooting. According to the family, the clip shows Brown being shot while his hands are on the steering wheel of his car. Now they're demanding the full video be released. Victor Oquendo's in Elizabeth, North Carolina, with the details. Victor?
For the sixth day in a row, protesters taking to the streets of downtown Elizabeth City, North Carolina, demanding answers and accountability. It's been nearly a week since Andrew Brown Jr. was shot and killed by deputies, and his family still feels left in the dark, telling us they were promised they'd see the body cam video showing Brown's final moments, but were only shown 20 seconds from a single camera, even though there were multiple deputies at the scene wearing body cameras.
Describe it. What did you see in those 20 seconds?
Execution. We see his hands on the steering wheel while they were shooting, actually.
Brown's family saying he was shot in the back of the head, and they're calling for transparency.
They selectively edited a video, cut it down to 20 seconds, showed us what they wanted to show us, and blurred out the faces of the officers.
Facing mounting pressure, the Pasquotank County attorney filing a motion in court asking for the full release of the body camera footage. Under North Carolina law, a judge has to approve the release.
Those people who claim the sheriff's office has the ability to release either don't know North Carolina law or they are trying to purposely inflame a tragic situation.
Body cameras are shaky and sometimes hard to decipher. They only tell part of the story.
According to the search warrant application, authorities believe Brown was using his home and two vehicles to store, package, and distribute narcotics. The family's attorney says no weapons or drugs were found in Brown's car or in the house at the time.
And Victor joins us live now with more on this. Victor, good morning. You know, the family says that they're going to release the results of an independent autopsy this morning. What do you expect from that?
Well, Diane, first things first, we expect to learn a lot more any minute now. It's what I'm looking over my shoulder here. That is actually a press conference that's about to get underway. But what we can tell you is what we know so far, and that's what we've heard from the initial call to EMS and from what the family and their legal team has told us. In that initial call to the EMS right after the shooting, you can clearly hear them say we have one male, about 42 years of age, with a gunshot to the back. And from the 20 seconds of video that the family was shown yesterday, what they told us after watching it was that they saw deputies firing from behind Andrew Brown's car into his car. He was sitting in the front seat with his hands on the wheel. We'll see what that independent autopsy confirms in just moments here. Diane?
And Victor, where do we stand with the public release of the body cam video? I know we're waiting for our judge's ruling on that. Any status update?
Right. Some progress has been made. The county attorney has filed a motion in court to get that video released. But you just mentioned the judge under North Carolina law. In order for body cam video to be released, a judge has to approve that, and we still don't have a timetable for when that might happen.
All right, Victor Oquendo from Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Victor, thank you. And attorneys representing the family of Andrew Brown Jr. are holding a press conference to reveal the results of an independent autopsy in his fatal police shooting. Let's listen in.
Having a cell phone while black. Sleeping while black. like Botham Jones, been in our apartment while black. But her son was killed while at the church while black. And she did not think it robbery, Arthur, to come here and be with Andrew Brown's family. So like Miss Gwen Carr, we thank her and we continue to pray for justice for your son as well. Fred Cox Jr.
Fred Cox Jr.
Now today, as we informed you yesterday, we have the results of our autopsy report that was performed by Dr. Brent Hall with Autopsy Professional Association. And you all will get copies of the autopsy report as well as the anatomical models at the end of the press conference. And for those of you not present with us here in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, if you go to press@bencrump.com, they will send it to you electronically. We're going to hear from our legal team in this order, and then we're going to hear from the family members that are present. You're going to hear from Attorney Wayne Kendall, and he's going to go through some of the details of the autopsy. Then you're going to hear from my other great co-counsel, Good Omega. That is going to be Attorney Harry Daniels. And then you're going to hear from this brilliant commentator, attorney, Bakari Sellers. And then you will hear from Khalil, the son of Andrew Brown Jr. And finally, from our legal team, you will hear from Chantel Lassiter, who not only is a member of our legal team, but personally knew Andrew very well. And this is going to be most emotional for his son and his family, but also for Chantel, who became like family and working with this family. I want to thank Mr. Darius Horton. I mean, he's really helped the family a lot. He will be handling the services, the funeral services on Monday at 12 noon. But he also made sure that whatever the family needed with making sure they worked with the medical examiner, that he accommodated them. So we can never say thank you enough, Mr. Horton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton.
Now, you all know from the death certificate that it was a penetrating gunshot wound to the head. But Attorney Sellers, what they did not know was that it was a kill shot to the back of the head. And so we're going to have Attorney Wayne Kendall go through the autopsy report for you in detail. And then we're going to have other members of the legal team talk about the relevance of how we put this puzzle together, because they won't release the video. So painstakingly, we have to keep putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Attorney Wayne Kendall.
Thank you, Ben. My name is Wayne Kendall. I want to first thank the Brown family for giving me the opportunity to be here, to be a part of the legal team representing them in this investigation and the legal part of representing them if necessary in court. We got it. Yeah. We commissioned a private individual autopsy report, postmortem report, because we don't have access to anything that's official. And what our preliminary autopsy report shows is that there were 5 penetrating bullet wounds to the body of Andrew Brown Jr. Now, consistent with what you have probably already heard is that the first initial shots were through the front windshield of the vehicle that he was located in at the time that
Hold on one second. They're trying to do surveillance on us.
What you probably heard already, and you heard yesterday when Ms. Lassiter gave her recitation of what she saw on the video yesterday, was that Mr. Brown had his arms up on the steering wheel of the vehicle that he was then located in. And what happened was that there were 4 bullet wounds to his right arm. These bullet wounds, according to the autopsy, were more or less glancing shots. They were not fatal shots. So he was able to back up as these shots were coming into the vehicle. He was able to back up, turn the vehicle around, spin off across a vacant lot, and at that time, he was hit in the back of the head here, and that is the fatal bullet wound that was described in the death certificate as a penetrating bullet wound to the skull. And that was the cause of death, that was the manner of death by gunshot. So we now know, because we have not been able to get any official documentation concerning this shooting, that this, in fact, was a fatal wound to the back of Mr. Brown's head as he was leaving the site trying to evade being shot at by these particular law enforcement officers who we believe did nothing but a straight-out execution by shooting him in the back of his head as he was trying to get away in a moving vehicle, which no doubt is also against police practice to shoot into a moving vehicle to a person who posed no threat whatsoever to the officers then and there on the scene. So in summary, his death was caused by these officers with a bullet wound to the back of his head that caused him to lose control of that vehicle and crash into a tree. And I think once the video actually comes out, we're going to also find out that there were shots into that vehicle after it crashed into the tree and after he had been hit in the back of the head. The certificate also says that the time of death was within minutes after this particular gunshot wound to the back of the head. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Kendall. As Attorney Harry Daniels comes before you, it's important to note that the gunshot wound to the head, the entrance was the back of the head, range intermediate, projectiles sequentially perforated and penetrated his skull and his brain. It's important to note that the projectile was recovered in his brain. It never exited. And the trajectory, Attorney Daniels, was from bottom to top, left to right, back to front. So it went into the base of the neck, in the bottom of the brain, the skull, and got lodged in his brain. Oh, Lord. And that was the cause of death. Attorney Harry Daniels will put this in greater context.
Exactly. Execution. Execution. Give us a minute.
The streets gonna get justice, bro. You better remember that, Negro. The streets gonna get justice. You ain't nothing.
Execution. That's what took place. That's what Attorney Wayne Kendall described. He went over the medical points of it, but that's exactly what that's described. Overkill, execution.
The law enforcement in this country cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. Andrew did not get his due process. He was innocent. I don't care what the warrant, what the search warrant, he was innocent. He maintained the presumptions of innocence. So far as I'm concerned, that innocent man was killed by law enforcement. Overkill, unjustified shooting. Shot this man while he had his hands on the steering wheel. He wasn't fleeing. He wasn't fleeing. Let's get that word going. He wasn't fleeing. He was trying to run because he was scared of his life. He was scared for his life. And anybody here, if you get shot at, hold on, brother. If you get shot at, and you're going to run. That's bottom line. Second nature. Fight or flight, you're going to run. He left, trying to save his life, and they continued to shoot and put a bullet in back of his head, in the back of his head. A black man, unarmed, bullet in back of his head for no reason whatsoever. It was an innocent man. I don't care what, you can put out whatever you want to put out. You can try to assassinate his character, but you need to talk about the assassination of him and who committed the assassination.
That's right. That's right.
All right, I'm gonna pass on Bakari Sellers, coach.
Yep.
Attorney Sellers.
One of the things that I wanted to mention today is that we have the privilege of.
That's right. Get rid of this.
My brothers, this is a message for everyone watching. Hey, you don't have to like us. That's fine, but please have respect for the family. So what we're trying to say is you don't have to care for Ben or Bakari or Harry. You don't have to be Democrat or Republican. You don't have to be white or black to realize that what this family has not gotten is justice. We have an execution here in Elizabeth City. We have an execution here in Elizabeth City, and what I want people to understand while we have this execution is we demand justice from the sheriff's department. We demand justice from this district attorney. We demand justice not for anybody standing up here, but we demand justice for Andrew Brown and his family.
Amen.
Andrew Brown and his children. So you don't have to care or like Benjamin Crump. You don't have to like Bakari Sellers. You don't have to like Harry Daniels. You don't have to be a Democrat or a Republican to feel like injustice was done. You don't have to be black. You don't have to be white. You just have to have a beating heart or moral conscience to understand that injustice was done. So we will deal with people who may not like us. We will deal with people who may not vote like us. But at the end of the day, I do not care what you look like, who you pray to, where you walk, or how you vote. But what I do care about is the fact that an injustice was done. Now, y'all done got me carried away. I know that people said that, I switched accents. But my daddy in Denmark, South Carolina, my daddy would always say, you never argue with a fool because you don't know who's watching. Amen. And they can't tell the difference.
That's your heart, Bakari.
But I'm saying today, for everybody, we on the same side and we want justice.
Amen.
We actually had a conversation. We stand together. We got Khalil. We got his brother on FaceTime right here. We got Khalil's mama right here. We have the mother of the family. We have 5 kids, and I don't care how you vote. I don't care if you're black or white. I don't care if you don't like me. But have a moral conscience for the injustice that's going on. The media has to gain control and say, we demand some transparency and some action from this body. Yep. We don't know what the video is going to show because they ain't shown us nothing. Yep. And we also have bad laws in the state of North Carolina. And everybody should be held accountable for the fact that in Columbus, Ohio, the video came out in a few hours. And you hear that pain? You hear the pain of the young lady in the back? That pain is all throughout the community.
George Stein needs to be held accountable. All of those
I'm about to bring Khalil in. And so the last point I I want to make is one of the worst questions we always get asked. My last point is this. One of the worst questions we always get asked is, can the family tell everybody to be calm and peaceful? Yeah. And people always come up to the family and put that onus on them. All right. You know, they always say, can the family have a message to people? We appreciate the people who are protesting peacefully. We appreciate that. But if we want calm, if we want justice, then that onus is not on this family. That onus is the people who are hiding the information we need to get answers. And so I know that we want to yell, I know we want to scream, but I just ask that you all take a moment and breathe and pray for Khalil. Amen. Khalil's going to come up, and Khalil is the only one that's in this audience, I do believe, that actually had to witness his father be executed. So, again, I don't care what you look like, who you vote for, or who you like or don't like up here. I understand that. But let's lift this young brother up, because he's witnessed something, and he's now a part of a fraternity that none of us want to be a part of.
Amen.
Touch him. Give him strength.
For one, it's too much violence going on. That's not the key. Because that's just going to make everything worse. It's too much going on already with us black folks doing it to each other. You know what I'm saying? That's not right at all. We need to focus on that if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? So violence is not the key. But to my pops, man, yesterday I said he was executed. This autopsy report showed me that was correct. Those 3 gunshots to the arm, that wasn't enough? That wasn't enough? It's obvious he was trying to get away. It's obvious. And they gonna shoot him in the back of the head. Man, that shit not right. That's not right at all, man.
Not right.
Like,
not right.
Man, stuff gotta change. It really gotta change for real. Yeah. Like,
It was actually 4 gunshots to the arm, and they kept shooting. Now we're going to hear from Attorney Chantrell Lassiter.
I want y'all to hear the pain in this community, the pain, the yelling that y'all hear, the agony that y'all hear. This is pain. And a lot of times pain is interpreted as rebellion or whatever people want to interpret it as. Call it what it is. It's painful. This is painful for this family. This is painful for this community. We came up here yesterday, as Khalil said, and we told you it was an execution. People were questioning, well, you know, what about this? What about that? It was an execution. It was an assassination of this unarmed black man, and that is painful. And we are tired. Mothers are tired. Sisters are tired.
Right. That's right. Don't forget about fight.
Fathers are tired.
That's right.
Communities are tired. Grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, friends, people that you call your family is tired.
Tired.
Y'all have to hear that pain. Y'all don't tune it out. Because people are yelling and it's not traditional, or it's not conforming to the norm. It is pain. You have to hear that. And justice will be served.
Justice will be served. Amen. Miss Gwen Carr, Miss Tanika Cox, 2 members of a fraternity that nobody wants to be a part of. Some say it's one of the quickest growing fraternities in the black community. Having the police kill our loved ones unjustly. And so, as Attorney Lassiter talked about pain, you see the pain in real life with these mothers who will have a hole in their hearts forever because their sons didn't bury them, they buried their sons. We will start with Miss Gwen Carr, who is one of the original mothers of the movement from New York City. Her son is Eric Gardner.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Here I stand again in solidarity with this family who has joined a fraternity, a club that no one wants to be a part of. But when you do become a part of it, you don't know the pain. You don't know the strength that the family has to have in order to endure. And for Khalil to watch his father being executed, can you just imagine? Put yourself, don't only have sympathy, have empathy. Put yourself in that position.
Tell them, Gwen.
What would you do if you saw your child, your mother, your father, whomever being executed? An unarmed person being executed. They came here for that purpose. They never intended, in my opinion, they never intended to take him alive.
Tell them, Gwen.
They came with the intention. They had their own agenda when they came to that car. And that's not right. This is what they do in the black and brown communities. They come to us, they brutalize, they terrorize, they kill, and then it's swept under the rug. But we have to come together as communities to stop this. We can't keep going through this. My son died almost 7 years ago, and I had to watch his execution over and over again. I never watched the tape in its entirety because I couldn't. And I know it's going to be just like a lot of these family members. They're not going to be able to see that. It's horrible what they do to us. Horrible. And it has to stop. It has to stop. All black and brown men are not terrorists.
That's right.
They're not all guilty.
That's right. That's right.
Tell them, right.
They talk about police not being all bad, so all black people are not bad.
That's right. Big mother.
Tell them, Gwen.
There's bad in every community.
That's Gwen Carr, mother of Eric Garner, speaking at a press conference along with attorneys representing the family of Andrew Brown Jr. They just released preliminary results from an independent autopsy that they say was conducted on Andrew Brown on behalf of the family. And they say that autopsy shows Brown was shot, or at least bullets penetrated him 5 times, 4 times in the arm, and then they believe the fatal shot was one to the back of the head. And so I want to bring in Victor Oquendo in Elizabeth City and former homicide prosecutor Bernardo Villalona, and as well as ABC News medical contributor Dr. Darian Sutton, to unpack all of this a little bit. And Bernardo, I'll start with you. You know, we hear again, all of the accounts that we have about what happened that day between Andrew Brown Jr. and the police are all according to the family and the family's attorneys and based on this 20 seconds of body cam video that they say they were able to see, because we're still waiting for body cam video to potentially be released to the public. So the only real detailed facts we have on the case are from them, because the police have provided very limited information so far. So I just want to preface with that. But what we heard today from the family's legal team was, again, that Andrew Brown was shot 5 times. They believe the fatal shot was to the back of the head, and they say that that shot was fired after he backed out of his driveway driving away from police. So they say he was never threatening police and driving toward them, and he managed to back out, turn the car around, and then drive off. And that's when they believe he was shot fatally in the back of the head. We're going to be awaiting official autopsy results, but from a legal standpoint, what do you make of what you heard today?
So sad that the information that's being relayed has to come through the family as opposed to coming from the prosecutor. Yes, I'm here. Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bernardo. Go ahead.
1 second. Hold on.
Did we lose Bernardo? All right, we're going to try to get Bernardo back on the line. I'm going to go to Victor Oquendo now. So, Victor, as Bernardo was mentioning and as I was mentioning, you know, all we know from this case primarily is what we're hearing from the family. We haven't heard a ton from the sheriff or from other officials there in Elizabeth City. And, of course, the public hasn't yet seen that body cam footage. So what's the latest on when we might hear more from anyone besides the family and the family's attorneys on this?
Diane, that's what we're all waiting for right now, a judge to sign off on the release of that body cam footage. We can tell you, though, the family still speaking here, once again calling it an execution. And there's no doubt this news conference will once again amplify the growing calls for transparency and the release of that video. You touched on it and you handled it well, explaining that this was an independent autopsy. This was not one done by the county. This was one done by the legal team and the Brown family. What they explained was that Andrew Brown was shot 5 times, 4 times in the arm while he was inside the car, and at some point he backed away, tried driving away, and was shot. The fatal shot, they explained, right to the back of the head. That's all we know from what this side, Brown's family and his legal team, have told us. And you can see the crowd here. It's only growing. Got a lot of different groups here on the ground, very angry. They're demanding accountability, Diane.
And Victor, there seemed to be a little back and forth with the attorneys speaking, but also a lot of noise coming from the crowd, maybe, or somewhere in their periphery. At some point, we even heard Bakari Sellers say, "You don't have to like us, but respect the family." What was going on there?
Right, so it looks like you've got a few members of the Black Panther Party who've just gotten here to this news conference, and they're the ones with the megaphone right behind me. I'm not sure if you can even see them or hear them right now, but that's what's happening here. So again, you've got a lot of different groups here on the ground who are very upset with the situation. But we should also mention that over the course of almost a week now, every single protest, and there have been protests every single night, they have been peaceful.
So, Victor, I just want to clarify, because from our end, it was a little bit confusing when Bakari said, "You don't have to like us, but respect the family." Are there counter-protesters there protesting against the attorneys and the family, or was that a general message that he was issuing, not directed at the people that are actually there today?
So I think what you heard there at that point, and I can't say for sure, but I think what you were hearing was one of the members of the Black Panthers actually calling Ben Crump, this is what he said, calling him an ambulance chaser. And that's when it got a little heated, and that's when you heard Bakari Sellers say, "You don't have to respect us, but respect the family." I think that's what you may be referring to.
Okay. Yeah, it was hard to make out from our end, of course, because there's so much going on in the background, and what we're looking at is the podium with just the attorneys and the family. So, Victor, glad you're there to be able to parse through it all for us. And I want to come back to you for a little bit more on what we can expect from the official autopsy. But I want to go back to Bernarda Villalona, who's back with us again. Bernarda, to dissect a little bit from a legal standpoint, what you make of what you heard today from the family and the family attorneys.
So it's so sad that the only information that's being relayed to us is coming through the family. Where are the elected officials? Where's the prosecutor, who's the lead law enforcement officer for that county, for that area? Where's the deputy sheriff? Where's the sheriff? Why aren't we hearing any information from them? These are the elected officials that have been elected to be the face, to be the leadership of that county. So unfortunately, we're left with the information that the family has been able to get. And what do we know now? We know that the family was shown 20 seconds of clip, but that 20 seconds of clip does not encompass everything that took place. Aside from that, let's dissect what happened with the autopsy. We have an independent autopsy that was done on the body of Andre Brown. What we know from that, the most important part, is that the manner of death was a homicide at the hands of others, but that the cause of death was a penetrating gunshot wound of the head. But more importantly, that the gunshot entry was through the back of the head. So that gives you the conclusion that he was definitely shot from the back and not face forward. So from that, we can infer that definitely at that point when he was shot in the back, he was not a threat to officers, and that there was a huge violation in the sense that police officers cannot shoot at a moving vehicle when it is not an imminent threat to either the police officers or to anyone in the immediate area. So there is a lot to dissect here. However, we don't have the information that we need, but we do know that autopsy tells us a lot, because when it comes to an autopsy, it is a body of evidence. And the evidence, what it tells us, is that he was shot from the back. And when you're shot from the back, you are not an imminent threat to anyone in the immediate area.
And Dr. Sutton, I know you're not a pathologist, but you do work with a lot of emergencies and trauma cases. What goes into a medical investigation like this when you're trying to figure out what happened to a patient?
As was just said, the point of this forensic pathologic investigation by this independent reviewer is to determine the manner, the mechanism, and the cause of death. And during that examination is a close examination to the body of the victim in terms of what weapon was used, the range at which that weapon was used, and the direction at which that weapon came from. And as was just stated, we can see that the entry point of the likely fatal shot entered the back of the victim's head, which did not show any associated exit wounds. Again, confirming what we are suspicious of, which is that this unfortunate man was shot from behind.
And I want to go back to Victor Oquendo on that in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, there where this press conference is still being held. Victor, this, again, is all based on what we're hearing from the family and the family's attorneys, based on their independent autopsy and their sole viewing of this 20-second body cam video. Is there any update on what is happening with the official autopsy, where it's being done, and when we might get those results?
That's another question we all want answered, Diane. Right now, we're just hearing from one side of this. We're just hearing from Andrew Brown Jr.'s family and the legal team. They've gone as far as to hand out papers with their own independent initial autopsy report showing, clear diagrams here, where on one side, this is what they say. Again, this is according to Andrew Brown's family's legal team, that was the fatal shot to the back of the head right there. And on the other side, they've even got the diagram showing shots, like they said, 4 shots to his right arm. Again, this is not the official autopsy report. Still waiting on that as well. And we're still waiting for a judge to sign off on the release of the body cam footage, and no word on when that might happen. As you can hear behind me, though, the calls for transparency only growing louder.
And Bernarda, I want to go to last question to you here. So far, the family has called for the body cam footage to be released. The sheriff's office has said that they also want the body cam footage to be released to the public, and say that the county attorney have put in a request to a judge to release the video. So is there an inclination? I mean, could the judge still rule not to release this video? And how long do you think we might be waiting for a ruling on that?
So that is correct. The judge can rule in the best interest of the county itself that they do not have to release the video at this point in time. So there are a couple of reasons for that. It could be that the investigation is still ongoing, so you don't want to taint the investigation itself. However, there is nothing stopping the sheriff's office or the prosecutor's office from showing the full video to the family and the family's attorney. You do not need a court order for that. The court order is to release it to the public. So there's nothing stopping that family, that grieving family, of finding out what happened to their loved one almost 1 week ago when his life was taken away from this law enforcement officer.
All right. Former homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona, Dr. Darian Sutton, and Victor Oquendo, thank you all. And that does it for this ABC News Live update. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. I'll see you back here at 3 p.m. Eastern with Terry Moran for The Breakdown. Stay safe. Have a great day.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.